Expenditure depends on the details of your expansion strategy. And in the past, I have built strategies to leverage current marketing, current resources, especially at the start of it. But you can only get away with that for so long. And I'll give you an example.
Hey, welcome to the FinTech Frontlines by Cora. This podcast is a collection of timeless ideas on how to build, launch, and operate a fintech in Africa from the most experienced minds in African fintech. In this episode, Toyo, Gerald, and Bruno break down some of the biggest expenditures startups have to consider when trying to expand their business to other countries.
You are going into a new market, no one knows you. Right? You are partnering with people already there. Or probably you've gotten your license, but you are a new person in this market. No one really knows who you are, right? I think promoting your brand is into a new market is major key, right? Putting your brand really out there is really major key, and also regulatory and compliance licensing fees, doing the groundwork, ensuring that all regulatory requirements are in check while you're trying to either incorporate in this new market or probably getting a business license or things in this new market. Also, I would say operational costs, setting up offices in this market, right? I usually tell people that going into a new market, you don't just go and you don't just go and rent a building, probably a 3-story building, and say that yes, we are in this country, right? I always go for there are virtual offices now everywhere in Africa, right? There are businesses that offer this option. Get a virtual office, probably for the first few months while you are doing the groundwork. If you really need to have a presence in this market, if you really want to show the regulators that yes, you are in this market, get a virtual office, a registered business address. All this is allowable in new markets in Africa that you need to expand to, right? So I see people already getting buildings. Oh yes, they're paying monthly, which is very, very expensive, right? But these virtual offices are very, very cheap, and we definitely cut costs, right? Yeah, I think I'll just leave it there so that Tayo and Gerald can just add one or two to it.
Yes, please. Tayo, what do you think about this?
I think that expenditure depends on the details of your expansion strategy. And in the past, I have built strategies to leverage current marketing, current resources, especially at the start of it. But you can only get away with that for so long. And I'll give you an example. So in one company that I launched in East Africa, so Kenya and Uganda at about the same time. One of the things that we did was, because we have a team in Nigeria that's already doing these things, and I know that in the next 3 months we're going to be in these countries, and it's a test, right? We're not going full throttle. We started to have that team essentially duplicate the resources that we used here. And so you would do kind of language and cultural and context changes to the same resources that we use here. Of course, so open social media handles that are specific to those markets, right? And things like that, right? So small changes, start involving yourself in their events. You don't have to, it's not billboards or crazy digital ads to start with.
Right.
When we then went in there, we had, instead of a physical location like an office, we were in a very public space that had a lot of foot traffic. So think of the biggest malls in those cities. Not traditional office spaces, right? But it served the purpose of just people feeling I've seen this brand before. Another thing that we did was we had an advertising strategy on TV, for instance, that was Pan-African. It was one cost. It was the same cost as advertising just in Nigeria, but we're able to move TV slots across these other markets for the period to say, you know what, let's see how this goes. And so when we landed there on day one, there were already customers that we knew paid us even before we were on ground. We went physically to these people's homes. Call it content marketing, right? Because we made a big deal of it, of visiting our customers across Entebbe and Kampala and Nairobi and Mombasa.
That's amazing.
So it looks as though we had been there for a while, as if we were like a massive brand and everybody knew about us. But that wasn't the case. In another part of Africa that we had to go to, it was impossible to do this strategy. Because it was a country that was racially different, right? And advertising was more expensive. Some of the biggest global brands already advertised there. Competition for like ad spaces was massive. So there was no cheap way to do it. You just had to go big or don't do it at all. We took the decision to not stay in that market because the value that we would get over the period of investment just did not match up. So for us, so anyway, to go back to the question as to cost, it depends on what you want to do and how much money you have, how much value your product or your service would bring back to you, how sure you are of the market. So for instance, if you are in HR and payroll technology, for instance, so you come to Nigeria, there's 200 million people.
Yeah.
There are maybe 80 million of those that are gainfully employed. There are maybe 3 or 4 major players in the market today. Yes, you can come in and make that investment and say we're in it for the long haul. Even if it takes us 5 years, we'll eventually make our money back. But you couldn't do that if you went to Gabon, for instance. Right? That market may not be worth that amount to you. So you just say, you know what, for this one, we'll play it cool. We will not over invest or over index on owning this market because the total value of the market is not worth the effort.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FinTech Frontlines. For businesses that are bullish on Africa, Cora provides all the support you need to start and scale with delightful payment products for collections, payouts, and settlements. Learn more at corahq.com.